So, I hope everyone can see me and hear me. I'm going to make sure that I'm on. Um, I'm so excited to be here today. So, I hope this is recording. It says you're in the show. Everyone can see you and hear you. So, that's exciting. My name is Laurel Aguilar-Kirchhoff. And if you're watching the recording, I'm just going to double check and make sure this is working, but it's exciting. I am here for our live Facebook recording to see and see. The comments are not transferring, so okay, let me go ahead and open everything up and see if I can make sure I can see your comments. Looks like Brittany's got it though as well. But my session for the Empowered to Teach AI conference is all about student data privacy and AI, and really how can we safely save time and make sure that we're using AI in a way that's going to really benefit us as educators, and then also make sure that our students are safe at the same time. So I hope that you'll check out the session. I get asked a lot of questions about student data privacy, which is kind of cool. It's not kind of cool, it's very cool. I teach a capstone class at Cal State San Bernardino here in California. And our class is all about like educational law and everything that we need to know as educators. And a big part of that is how do we keep our students' data safe? And so it's a really interesting concept because a lot of times some of those nuances are not things that are like explicitly taught. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to teach that and for my class, but also to share it with everyone else. So I have a jumpstart guide coming out for ISTE. And it's going to go, it's a very, if you're not familiar with the jumpstart guide, it's a trifold. And for that trifold, it is laminated and it's a little bit larger than normal size paper, but it has different categories and it really breaks down. It's called Student Data Privacy and Educator's Guide. So my session, I had a lot of questions, a lot of questions about AI and student data privacy. So basically every country in the world has some type of data privacy law or policy. In the United States, we have a couple of laws that are really, really particular for privacy for our students. And so we have our federal laws, and then keep in mind all of our state laws are going to be layered on top of that. So we have FERPA, which is our main data privacy law, and we have COPA. And these two work together, and I'm not going to go into the minutia of all of them, but really the idea for FERPA is that it's our responsibility as educators to keep our students' information safe, that our students' information about their grades, all of their personally identifiable information, everything about them, including their intellectual property, which would be the work that they create for us as educators in the classroom, all of that belongs to our students and their families. So it's the Family Education Privacy and Rights Act. So the idea there is that that's our main law in the United States, and that's something that we really need to make sure that we adhere to. And so we want to make sure that we're following that law. And this session today is not going to get into the minutiae laws. Like I said, if you want to know more about FERPA, COPA, and SIPA, then you can definitely talk to me. All of my information, you can reach out to me on socials. I do a lot, like I said, in that area. But the idea with AI, it's just like any other ed tech, right? When it comes to our student data privacy laws. So I used to work at my county office of education, and my former CTO, he's now the assistant superintendent for San Bernardino County, David Thurston. He told me once, like we were talking about student data privacy, he's like, people just really need to ask before they app. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's such a great saying." So thank you, David, because that's become my mantra when I talk to people about student data privacy. Always ask before you act. So it really doesn't matter when we're talking about AI or we're talking about the latest, greatest ed tech platform. What I mean when I say ask before you act is the way that our laws work, our federal laws work, is that our IT departments, our instructional technology departments, or they could be informational, whatever some people call them ITS departments, whatever you call your IT department at your district, at your local education agency, whatever you call it. Your IT department, the district has to have an agreement signed with the EdTech platform. And this agreement says that the EdTech platform is going to keep your students' information as safe as they possibly can. They're also not going to sell the students' information. They're not going to rent out the students' information. They're not going to show ads to the students. They're going to keep it as safe as they possibly can. So the EdTech company promises that, and the district will evaluate these policies, and then they'll sign an agreement together. Those agreements have to be in place before we as educators can use the EdTech platform with our students. So it's a really important part of student data privacy that we ask before we app and we don't go rogue, basically, with EdTech. And that applies to AI, it applies to any EdTech platform, anything at all. So if you're ever wondering, I actually did a session for Q, I think a couple of years ago. It was like why your IT department says no. And that's usually why, is because there isn't a student data privacy agreement between the platform that you want to use and your district or your education agency signed together. And that's really, really, really important. Now we have some laws like SIPA, and there's acronym city in education. But we have some laws that are specific to ed tech companies and not just ed tech, but tech in general. So if you've ever got a new app or you went to go log into a website and they asked if you were over 13, there's a webinar that I did for ISTE called The Myth of 13, because the myth is that students over the age of 13 can give consent. Now, that's only true on personal devices. In the educational realm, it is our responsibility as the educators, as the adults, in the terms that we use in loco parentis, which means that we're in place of the parents, that we're signing these agreements in place of the parents, and that the districts or local education agencies are signing them in good faith. So the idea of a 13-year-old or someone that's older than 13 could give consent to use something, that's not true in the educational system. And the educational system, and actually just in the United States, an adult is 18 years old. So if we're acting in loco parentis, we're acting in place of their parents for these agreements until that child is 18. Then they can give consent and things like that. So that's why it's a little bit different when we talk about higher ed, and things like that. But in the K-12 or TK-12 education system, a 13-year-old cannot give consent to use AI. A 13-year-old cannot give consent to use any ed tech platform. So when we're thinking about using AI, what I and my session is all about is really thinking about how we can use it as educators. How do we use AI to help us save time, to help us make our teaching more human? I mean, that's a big part of it. How can we take some of these tasks that take us a tremendous amount of time and let AI help us with it? And then we can take our extra time. Extra time as educators is just funny, right? That's just like hilarious. But our extra time, and use and put it into different things that we want to do with our students. So Teaching in the I used to teach in the K-12, um, at Ecosphere. I taught middle school for 20 years, and part of my role now in higher ed is I'm a student teacher supervisor. So I go out and I go onto campus and I supervise and I coach and I give feedback to my student teachers that are, learning to be teachers. And one of the things that my student teachers tell me all the time is how exhausted they are, how hard teaching is. And I'm like, yeah, it's super hard. It's a lot. We make so many decisions every day. We're working with all of these different people, personalities. We're, invested in so much that for our students. But a lot of times the perception is that teaching is easy because good teachers make it look easy, right? Um, I oftentimes use the analogy of the really good teachers look like ducks floating on a pond, right? Above the surface, it looks so easy. They're just there, they're hanging out. But below the surface, they're furiously paddling to keep themselves afloat. And that's where I recommend that AI can really have your back as a teacher. AI can, you have to think about yourself. What takes up most of your time when you're teaching? Are you assessing student learning? Are you lesson planning? Are you iterating on your lessons? Is there something that you would like to have more time to work on? That's where AI can be a thought partner or a sounding board for you. And for myself, I really want to completely redesign all of my lessons and all of my syllabi for next semester. There's a couple of things I need to redesign because in California, we have some new literacy standards that I need to embed into my syllabi. So that's what it's a really fun challenge for me. I love creating lessons. I love lesson planning. I love curriculum and instruction. I love instructional design. Like that's my jam. But what I found with AI is that AI can help me come up with a really nice outline or base based off of some of my ideas. And then I can use that outline creatively to start fleshing it out. There's also some other things I've used AI for that's really helped me. Just I had the idea, but I didn't really want to take the time to create it. So I was doing a professional development session. I am a consultant for the California Foundation for History Education. We're a nonprofit that goes through and we provide professional development. But anyways, I was going in, and so I was like, oh, I really want to go through all of this PD. So, oh, great question about quizzes. Yes, I actually this is perfect. I wanted to create a PD tic-tac-toe board and do a fun gamified version of a professional development session. So I went through, I used quizzes, and quizzes, by the way, is FERPA and COPA compliant, but always ask before you app. Make sure your district has a signed agreement with quizzes before you use it. But I love quizzes. I use it all the time. So I went in, I took my slides from the professional development session. I uploaded them into quizzes. I asked quizzes to help me create a gamified tic-tac-toe game to help me create this different experience for these adult learners that I was working with. And oh my gosh, it did it so fast. It in a fraction of the time that it would have taken me. Now, I had already created the slides. It was my work. It was things that I had already created and generated. And then Quizzes was able to gamify it for me. And it literally was like 30 seconds. Now, something about it, I still had to go through it. I still had to review it and make sure that the questions that were generated and my thought for having this gamified tic-tac-toe experience was going to work and the questions match. And that some of them did, most of them did. Like most of them, there's a couple of questions in there. I was like, oh, they don't need to answer that question. So I deleted them. Um, and I loved using that app. I loved using it, really saved me so much time. And then it gave me extra time to make a paper copy as well using Canvas so that way I could differentiate for the people that were going to be there. I knew some people that were coming to this session were going to have devices. Other people were going to want paper. So it really freed up my time to create the paper version. And it was just, I was so blown away but by how much I could accomplish. And it really did help me differentiate um, from, what I had envisioned and then providing it in multiple means. So thinking about our UDL. Quizzes is a great way. Quizzes AI has so much. I do talk about this in my session, and I think if you have not experienced Quizzes itself, it's a gamified platform where you can go in. I used it and I still do use it all the time for formative assessments. And it's basically what it sounds like. It's a quiz. But for Quizzes AI, you can upload any worksheet, any question. You can create your own question bank if you have a question bank in there already. It's a teacher share teacher model. So you can use other people's question banks and tailor them to match what you need. You can upload from a YouTube video that maybe you want it to embed some questions from a YouTube video. You can have an article that's online that you want your students to read, and then they're going to embed and answer questions. I mean, really, the sky is the limit with Quizzes AI. They're also the way that I used it was I uploaded my slides. I use Google Slides. But really, the Quizzes AI was really easy for me to do that. Literally, you click a button, it says upload. So I had my slides ready, uploaded it, and then I was able to choose what options I wanted to create this experience. And what I really found that was great for me was I could also support the needs of all of my learners. So there's a drop down menu in Quizzes that can go in and fix any grammatical errors that I made. Right. I can click a button and I can say, replace this with a similar question. So I don't have to start from scratch. I can ask it, oh, and I did this. Sorry, I get really, really excited about this. I did this. I wanted to replace one scenario with a real world scenario that I know that the teachers that I was working with had experienced because we had talked about it over the course of the PD that we had been working on. So I was like, replace this with a real world scenario. And then I gave it some examples of how I wanted it to be real. And it was so awesome. You can also, there's translation features. So you can have it translated in your quiz into different into different languages. You can also have it changed into like, I want this to sound Shakespearean, and it's really fun. Like there's a lot, but that's where we can actually support and really dig into that UDL, the Universal Design for Learning, because you can adapt your content, the content that you've already created, that you already have, or a website, or a test bank, or whatever it is that you want your students, a YouTube video, and you can adapt that content to support all of your learners' needs. And of course, when I say all, this is something that we know our learners best. That's where I talk about we really want to use AI to humanize our teaching. So it's important that we know our students so that way we can go in and use AI appropriately in the ways that we want them to. But the Quizzes AI, the certification, it's free, and I know it's linked in here. I would definitely recommend it's going to take you about 20-30 minutes. Go through. You can see the power of Quizzes AI, and I do mention this in my session, but I am not paid by Quizzes. Like I'm not a Quizzes ambassador or anything like that. I just genuinely love this product and I use it myself, and I do feel very comfortable using it because it is FERPA and COPA compliant. It's also I know it's the US Privacy Shield framework. It's by the EU privacy regulations as well. So, but again, always ask before you act, because just because it is FERPA and COPA compliant doesn't mean that your district or your local education agency has an agreement with them. So just try that. I am so excited about that. It really is so, and The thing that I think I get so jazzed about using an AI generator like quizzes or any model is that it really inspires me to be creative too. How can I use this? How can I make my learning um, for my students more intentional and more meaningful and exciting and fun and model for them how I can also learn alongside them, which is one of the ISTE standards is learning us alongside our learners. And I think it's really fun to show my students like, hey, this is something new and cool and can be overwhelming and scary, but let's dig into it together. Let's see what's appropriate. Let's see what's not appropriate. I don't at this point recommend that you put any of your students' work into an AI generator. I really do recommend using it on the back end for us as educators. Because of FERPA and COPA, we want to just make sure that our students' work, their intellectual property, all of those things are protected and safe. So at this point, with what we have now, and like my good friend Joe Marquez says, this is the worst AI is ever going to be. It's only going to get better from here. It's only going to get more robust. It's only going to become more ubiquitous from here. So please, please, please know that this information that I'm giving you and my recommendations and things like that are as of April 2024, things change and they are changing so rapidly. So, this is the most current information that we have right now. Um, so we want to make sure that we're protecting and we're using it responsibly and modeling that for our students as well. Now, I don't recommend using, you know, AI it's a double-edged sword because we know our students are using AI, but I don't recommend trying to use like anything where we need to have conversations with our students about digital citizenship, about media literacy, about AI literacy. I was reading recently this it was a post from someone on social media about we need to have these conversations with our students about critical thinking. But I think that we also have to have those conversations with ourselves. How have we designed our lessons in the past? What's the purpose and the intention behind our lesson? And are we keeping up with the times? As like I mentioned, I want to completely redo my syllabi, and it's not because I want to change everything just for no reason. No, I want to increase the level of critical thinking that I'm asking my students to do, not because I'm trying to make it unchat GPTable or, un whatever, unAIable, but what is my learning intention? What is my success criteria? Really taking that model of backwards planning and thinking, what do I really, really need my students to demonstrate to me? How can they show me that they have learned this? And then backwards plan and then get into the lesson planning and looking at things like quizzes AI, looking at lesson plans. I show in my session about using Gemini and Microsoft Copilot to help me as a sounding board, as a thought partner to help me create some really interesting lessons and look for resources and look for some other ways that I can approach topics. But there's a lot to unpack there. If there are other questions, I would love, love, love to answer them. But as of right now, I just want to thank everyone. I especially want to thank Brittany for putting this conference together. This is such an awesome opportunity for us to be able to talk about what's happening in real time and to share just our knowledge of what we can do with what we have right now. And I know that putting on a conference is a labor of love. So I really, really appreciate all of the work that Brittany and her team have done to put on this conference. And there's a couple of things in the presentation that I talk specifically about I call out Gemini and Copilot. Keeping in mind when we're thinking about student data privacy, if your district has an ecosystem that you're using, like Google, like Microsoft. Again, just please make sure you ask before you app. If you are using it on the back end as a teacher, you might want to create your own personal account and not use your teaching account. Not because it's nefarious or anything like that, but remember everything that you do on your work computer and your work accounts, it's not private. So you want to make sure that if you are using AI, on the back end to help you as a thought partner, just consider where and how you're using it and how you're logging in and those kinds of things. But the final thoughts, and I know this has gone by really fast. I think I have like 5 minutes. The final thoughts for thinking about using AI. Remember, the idea is to humanize our classrooms. How can we free ourselves up and save time, like using Quizzes AI? That must have saved me at least an hour that then I could put into giving personalized responses and personalized feedback to my students' work, which I really appreciated that hour back. How can we differentiate, right? I use the example of the different differentiation tools that Quizzes AI presented, and there's lots of great prompts and questions. This session that I did wasn't on prompt engineering, but you can certainly put into your prompt in generative AI that you would like more differentiation and who you want and how you want it to help you differentiate a lesson plan. Can also provide you inspiration, give you ideas, thoughts, help you kind of take things to the next level. Take an idea like I had about a tic-tac-toe board and then turn it into this big gamified extravaganza, which is so fun. It was so fun. It was fun for me. It was fun for my learners. It still gave me the formative data that I needed, and I was able to really start to assess, like, where do we want to go next? And that was so important to me. So it gives me a lot of ideas. But again, we want to have transparency in how we're using it, who we're using it with. We never, ever, ever want to put students' personally identifiable information or their intellectual property into generative AI. We really need to use it responsibly and model that responsible use. And then always, you know, check for compliance, ask before you app. But this is the tip of a very large iceberg. I hope it's been, you know, something that's helpful for you. And I really, really hope that it's inspiring. I know that this whole conference is inspiring to me, and I'm getting tons and tons of great ideas. But if you ever want to talk more about student data privacy, or you want to know how you can get your hands on the ISTE Jumpstart Guide, again, it's just a very it's a trifold that has uh, just a quick explanation for educators. I would love to be able to share that with you. I love to be able to continue the conversations. So you can reach me on all the socials at Lucy Kirch. And I think I know on my slides, I have my link tree and it will take you to other areas. But again, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate this opportunity to share all of this with you. And if you have questions or you want to know more about the process that I used to use quizzes, I literally did that yesterday. So I'm happy to share that. But check it out. Please check it out. Quizzes AI. The training is free. It is a really great intro. There's awesome little video segments. They walk you right through it. And I think you'll be amazed at what you can do in a very short amount of time that's going to free you up in a lot of other ways. So I think we're just about at our time, which for me, as you could tell, I'm a talker. I want to make sure I honor your time and know that this is an amazing, amazing conference. And I can't wait to hear everything that everyone learned here and continue to learn with you. So thank you so much, Brittany. If there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about, I get happy to do that. But I know we're almost at time. So thank you so much, everyone. And please don't hesitate to reach out. I can't wait to learn with you. All right, everybody.